Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sublime Text Live for whatever day this is. I can't rightly tell. I'm not wearing my watch. 22nd, 22nd. How's everybody doing? My goodness, it's only Monday, and it's already been quite a week. I spent a lot of my day doing some training exercises with some members of my team. So I'm really happy to just be sitting and hanging out with you guys here in the stream. Having fun, and we're gonna clean up a little bit unless somebody has questions, because of course you are always welcome to ask any questions about Sublime Text or anything else really if I have the answer available for you here in the stream. Hello, Dwayne. I'm doing good. I'm pretty tired. I had sort of a rough weekend, so I didn't get a lot of sleep during the weekend. A lot of training happened today, so yeah, I mean, doing well otherwise, as far as these things go. I was the person running the training and not the person receiving the training. I always tend to find that a little bit more taxing, such as it is, despite the fact that I do a lot of this stuff streaming and whatnot. When there's high-level managers and things in training sessions, things start to get a little hairy. I always feel like I'm doing a terrible job, and everybody tells me I'm doing a great one. The people that say anything. Anyway, how are you doing? If you saw today's video, somebody asked a question. Someone Someone asked me a question in Discord about a package for Sublime that would allow you to enter a URL and download the file into a temporary folder, allowing you to make edits to it. And if you close the tab, then the file gets deleted, and otherwise you could save it. And I spent, pardon me, I did not turn off this phone. There's issues going on in the Sublime Text issue tracker. I said in the video I spent about 2 hours. That's it was pretty close. It was like 145 or so, and that included setting up the sample key bindings and everything. So it was a start to scratch, from nothing, empty directory, to what you saw in the video and what's currently in the GitHub repository in about an hour and 45 minutes. And as such, there's a couple of things that I probably would have taken a little bit more time with, but the point of the video was to help this person out with their thing, and also to point out that it's if you're a developer, it can be pretty easy, and it doesn't take a lot of time to come up with something that could potentially have some good effects on your editing abilities inside of Sublime. And there's, if you're a developer, there's always endless opportunities that you have and feelings that you have to be iterating on the thing that you're doing, trying to make it better in one way or another. But in many ways, you're always chasing a perfection that's probably never there. So I try not to get myself too bogged down in that sort of thing. But that said, there are a couple of things that we could tweak up about this. So we're gonna play with that for this stream this evening. As always, if you have any questions about this or anything, feel free to drop them in the chat. You don't have to feel like you're disrupting anything. If you have a question, this is what we're here for, to hang out and work on stuff. And this goes back to even a video that I did probably a couple of months ago at this point, because I was pondering doing live streams here on the YouTube only every couple of weeks, every other week instead of every week. But the community said they'd like to see more package development stuff happening and more video prep stuff happening. Last week we did some prep on using the Color Helper package, I believe it is. We looked at a couple, but I think that's one by Faceless User. And this time we're gonna do a little bit of plugin stuff, and maybe it's something that interests you. And keep in mind, there is a Plugin 101 playlist that will teach you how to become a package to plugin author in Sublime Text. I always feel like I'm in an infomercial when I say that particular thing. It should be linked down in the description below this live stream. I should also point out, because somebody asked, every live stream, once it's done, goes unlisted because it messes with the YouTube algorithm and display of videos to people that are watching the channel. But there is a playlist on the channel for Sublime Text Live that contains all of these videos. Hello, Ben. How are you doing? We were just discussing stuff that we're going to be doing in the stream this week, and also so much training at work. So much training. It was ridiculous. It was like 4 hours of action. Some high-level managers jumped themselves into the meeting. For reasons I didn't understand, they started asking some sort of funky questions for some things. I tried to get assistance because we're doing something with a Docker image with Mongo, and no matter what we do, every time the image starts, it always assumes that it is fresh and clean, even if it's mounting a local volume that stores things. And I don't know why it's doing that, and it turns out some of the higher end people don't know how it's doing or why it's doing that either. So hey, I feel a little better about that. Misery loves company, such as it is. Uh-oh. No. I thought maybe it had crapped out. The bit rate is dropping a bit, but nothing too terrible. That's weird. Let me just let me check something real quick here before we get rolling on a thing. Yeah. No, that's all cool. All right, I guess there's just sort of maybe some network issues. Nothing to be too concerned about, hopefully. Let's do this. If there's one thing that should cut the bit rate down precipitously, one would assume it would be having a mostly empty screen. Now, the bit rate is dipping, but it's not dropping frames. So I'm not entirely sure what the deal is with that. It's not the problem that we have been seeing. Oh, no, that would be download and not upload. So that would likely be cool. It will please you to know that as far as the YouTube stream system is concerned, the stream health is excellent, and we're not seeing any weird dips in bitrate. So that's nice. It's nice that everything is cool and that is some wacky stuff. I mean, it is using. Oh, did I not reconnect that? Yeah. At least I've had that happen on an older computer, or well, one of my older computers, I should say. It was an Intel Wi-Fi thing there as well. No, OBS just seems to be very unhappy for some reason. Let's compare as we dare. This ought to be fun. I'm gonna click a. Uh-oh. Nope. Okay, well that seems. Why you do this to me, YouTube? Why you do this to me? Holy crap. Am I still actively live here, or is it dead? Because now it's telling me, it spent some time telling me my bit rate was 12,000 kilobit, which is not anywhere near where I normally put that. Oh, look, now it knows that there's a problem. Thanks, YouTube. Oh, has it evened out now? Maybe it evened out now. It's going to be one of those days. In any case, hopefully you're still seeing me here. It seems to think that it's still there. I really start to think that this is, at some level, an OBS problem, because it said it was dropping frames, but it didn't say where it was dropping said frames, and the bitrate went way down, and then all of a sudden it's like everything went out in one big rush, like someone stepped on the hose. But it seems to be happy now, so we will continue and hope for the best. The stream is healthy again. Hooray! Excellent. So let's go back there. I don't know why that happened. No, that had happened a couple of weeks ago, but the link actively went down, and I did switch the network cable around, and that seems to have solved that problem. So I think this is just sort of a network hiccup. of some sort. Although it does think that the bit rate that it's shooting out is not as cool as it should be. Oh, wait. The stream's current bit rate of 4700 kilobit is lower than the recommended bit rate. We recommend you use a bit rate of 4500. Okay. That's there. That's fun. The 4700 is lower. They recommend 4500, and I'm only pulling 4700, so I'm getting a warning. Oh. Technology is fantastic, isn't it? It's really been one of those days. I had a training session that I was doing earlier, and of course, absolutely everything went wrong. Docker on my work laptop over here was using 36 gigs of RAM. I don't have nearly that much RAM in the system. And also my password expired over the weekend, and when I reset it, one of the VPNs decided that I changed my password and the other one didn't. So I rebooted with extreme trepidation. And then, of course, things sort of went downhill from there. But hello, Chirag. And okay, so we have questions about Terminus. Let's see. Let's scroll that back. You're new to Sublime Text. Terminus video was very helpful. That's cool. What are you not getting about Terminus? We can totally cover such a thing. While I type some commands here to restructure some of this stuff. You're having problems getting it configured to run, or using it in a build system, or what sort of issue are you having? I know sometimes people, just thinking here, someone asked recently, maybe it was you, that I meant to come up with an answer for, I can't remember where I even saw it at this point, which makes it tricky, about a plugin that can find and focus a Terminus terminal. My general recommendation for any sort of auto-completion stuff, if what you're looking for isn't immediately supported by Sublime out of the box, because I personally don't use any sort of auto-completion helpers, I just use the functionality that's built directly into Sublime, would be a package called... no, let's try that again. LSP. You want to install the LSP package, and also there should be, I'm not sure which one it is off the top of my head, for C and C++. I want to say it's Clang D, but I could be wrong about that. It's in here somewhere, I would have thought. That's usually the package that I would recommend for something like that. There's something called Code Intel that tends to cause more problems than it solves in Sublime Text 4 if you happen to be using Sublime Text 4. But LSP, I think, is the general recommendation for people that want more autocomplete action than what Sublime can do on its own. Yeah, that looks a little bit nicer. Leave the settings in the root. Probably. In what way not working? Might be a question to ask there. For example, if I wanted to call a function, it knows about the ones that are here. It knows that that one normally takes an argument. Might even infer that I use spaces after my calls. I never even noticed that before. Depending on what you want out of the autocomplete, then I find personally that what Sublime does what I need. If you're looking for something like using C++ and having a class and having it do something where you say my class and have it pop up only things that are members of that class and nothing else, then that's something that you need LSP for. I don't tend to use that sort of auto-completion myself, but it should be suggesting things for you out of the box. The only time that I've used something other than the built-in autocomplete was when we were playing around with LSP a few streams back, and when I install packages to help people with them, like Jedi, for example, which tends to break more autocomplete than it actually provides. But I find, and this is entirely a code style related thing, I would guess, but I like the way Sublime does it. It tells me the symbols that start with the text that I'm searching for, allowing me to find it. I tend to use autocompletes to complete things where I know what they are, or mostly know what they are. I'm usually very familiar with my code base. I hardly ever work in code where I'm trying to learn what it is, so I don't really see any benefit to having something do deep code intelligence to tell me that these are the 5 methods that are in any particular class. I usually want to know enough about the code that I'm working with to know what those are, to be able to find them myself and not have the autocomplete help me in that regard. But that's entirely me, and I do have a long history of doing development without any sort of autocompletion whatsoever, because I've been doing this for roughly 7.5 billion years. So in that case, I've sort of garnered work habits that don't necessarily rely on that level of stuff. But again, that's just me. Not everybody works best that way. Hello, Yasam. How are you doing this evening? Or this morning? I know it's depending on where you are in the world. It could be a different time. I'm going to take a screenshot of this real quick. Hang on. Oh, hang on. Not going to let me do that, huh? Hang on. Because this is some funny action. And I want to share this. Do a little bit of that and copy the clipboard. Okay, and then we can move this back over here. Nice. There we go. Fun times. There we go. I want to share that with my coworkers. He would get a kick out of that. We got to size this back so we can tell if things are going pear-shaped or not. So if you're just joining us, we're hanging out here as we do in these live streams. This particular one, we're working a little bit on a package for Sublime Text. One that if you watched this week's video, is something that I quickly threw together in a couple of hours yesterday at the request of somebody who messaged me in Discord, and I said, I don't think that there's anything that does what it is that you want to do, but it would be pretty easy to create something like that. So I told him to make post a question on the YouTube channel, and then we'll post it up. Hello, G-Bound. How are you doing? You missed the fun. The network connection crapped out for no readily explicable reason. I don't know why. Oh, but actually, hey, here's a fun thing we can use to test the package to see how it works. This will be fun. think I managed to copy that correctly. Did I make it unhappy with that bit of action? I may have. Here, let's quit and restart just to make sure we're cool, because I think I cloned that in there while everything was actively running. Okay. URL downloader, download and open URL. URL, this one. Ooh, I'm not allowed to access that URL? That's interesting. Why for not? Whoa. Oh, yeah, okay. It happened again. We need to tell Ultra Instinct, if he shows up, that when his package, command browser package, starts for the very first time, it has an issue with this line of code. It expects this to come up with more than one thing, which it does, but not right when the package loads. Not logged. Oh, it's that stupid thing that it was doing the other day. Why am I allowed to view it in this browser and not in that browser? Oh, I guess because that one's not. I don't think. Well, in any case, we can resolve that particular issue. We were having some weird issues with Discord stuff in last Friday's stream. I think Jbound was showing some links, and even my normal browser was like, "Nah, you don't get to see that here for reasons that I do not fully comprehend." Let's try something different then. Yeah. Yeah, we'll do that. Let's try that. Because there's one thing I didn't actively test here. Oh, where did it even put that stupid thing? I assume here. Yeah. Oh, whoops. That's not what I meant to do. I meant to do that over here. That is the appropriate thing. Boy, this file dialog is fantastic, isn't it? I want to test to see. There we go. Because I believe I tested this and it did work. Yeah, you can download file URLs. I wanted to share this with my coworker because it being unhappy that the current bitrate is lower than the recommended bitrate, that's a smaller number, is some fun action. I also realized after the fact, while I was putting the video together, that this has been downloaded to a temporary file, as we can see here. But I don't think, and maybe Ben can tell me otherwise, but I don't, because this is an image sheet and not a text sheet, it doesn't raise events. So I don't think there's a way to know that it's been closed except by polling the window and knowing. Similarly, the status bar isn't updated to say what URL that this came from. So that's kind of, I don't know a good way around that, which is something that we would probably want to think of if we were going to take this to a more production. This particular tab is an image sheet, so it doesn't generate events. Is there any way to detect that it was closed other than polling the window constantly to see if it's there and wasn't there before? Because I don't think there is. I think all of the events in event listeners only raise for text sheets and not image sheets, right? Which is a vague downer for what it is that was going on here. The thought only occurred to me after the fact. Also, that'll still work. This will not. Oh. Oh, we didn't move that file. Right. I forgot we didn't move that file. I was going to move it, but we'll leave that in the root. But key bindings will not work because I moved that file. So we need to edit you and you. That's a bit of a bummer. Not too terrible. If we don't tell anybody that this thing will totally download image URLs, I mean, except that I totally did in that video as a shameless like and subscribe type situation. 7:35 in the morning. Woof. That is an early time. Let's fix this one to change that to res maps. And we can double check that we actually fixed that. There's also a code issue with what this thing is actively doing as well that occurred to me again after the initial little bit of I spent roughly 2 hours, a little less than 2 hours, coming up with the idea, iterating on things a little bit, and then fleshing it out with all of the package related stuff in here. And then it wasn't until later on when I was doing some stuff with the video that I'm like, actually, I guess this is probably going to be unhappy for a couple of different things. It was specifically, the idea is that when it downloads a file in this thing and dumps it into a temporary file, it sets a flag in here to know that this is something that is a temporary file, and there's an event listener which on close deletes the file if it happens to be open still, and on save it erases that particular setting. So the idea would be that when it downloads the temporary file and opens it up, if you just close the file, the temporary file will get deleted. But if you save the file or save as the file to somewhere else, then the file remains. And the logical disconnect there is that if you save as this file to a new name, that doesn't do it. That still, keeps the temporary file in the temp directory, so it's not actively cleaning things up in that particular case. So I think we need to fix that too, for maximum goodness, if you will. Long week ahead of fixing data. That sounds like fun. I need to write up a list of a step-by-step list for how to clone a Git repository, CD inside of it, check out the appropriate branch, make sure that it's up to date, yarn install to build images, and then Docker compose yourself into a situation where you have something running, and then do a yarn, basically a watched build in a Docker development mode, or a Docker compose development extended thing that has the container mount the files directly from the local file system instead of taking them from the image, so that the other developers on the team can get started on making changes. And this is stymied by the fact that I'm the only one that knows how Docker works, and I don't really know how Docker works all that great. So they are freaking out at what it is they're going to be expected to do and whether or not they're actively going to be able to do it. No matter how much I try to explain to them that the only way, and this is life advice here, this is ODAT Nerd's life advice moment right now. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, whether it's developing something or learning to play guitar, learning a new language, anything like that, it's always hard until it's not. That's just the way that goes, And it's hard to tell, it's hard to keep in mind that as you go on and as you go forward, the things that used to be hard aren't as hard as they were before because you're learning as you go. But everybody seems to be hung up on that idea that there's stuff that they need to do and they don't understand a part of it, and that just sends you into like a weird spiral of existential dread and freaking out, and it's really hard to make progress in a situation like that. And my constant advice is calm down, take a deep breath. You got time. You can work this out. If you have questions, you can always ask them. There's no reason why you have to worry about anything like that. Take things a little bit at a time. Always do the part that you know how to do, and then move on to the next thing that you know how to do, and the next thing you know how to do. And by the time you finish doing that, you're done the thing, because you'll find that while you were doing the parts that you didn't know how to do, you learned how to do those other parts. You wrote a syntax file. Hey, sweet. Yeah, see, now everybody works in different ways. So in the team meeting where we did this long training session and we walked through everything, at the end, we were recording that meeting, and I had a request from one person to just let me give them the downloaded version of the meeting, and so they could just go through the whole 3 hours again, even though there was a lot of conversation in there. A few people, rightfully so, I thought, said, could you just, without anybody here constantly interrupting you with questions, just go through the steps, show us what they are and what they look like, and then we'll have a small little 15-20 minute video seeing exactly end to end, and then it'll be easy to skip around. And there are a couple of people, the Alex, if you were in a meeting or in the stream the other day, who doesn't want a video. He wants a written set of instructions, because for him, he learns better by having a list of things and stepping his way through the list. That helps him keep track in his head what he's doing. While there are other people on the team who find the easiest way to learn is to see what's happening, and from that get the information that they need. I'm sort of in a situation personally where I learn best by doing a thing. I love reading up on stuff. Many of the nerd books that I have are about various topics that I love. I love reading them and saying, "Oh, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool." When you're done reading a book, a technical manual or of some sort, you very rarely are able to just sit down and suddenly knock out 1,000 lines of code in some language that you've never heard of before. I still find it endlessly fascinating to read, but what really helps cement things for me in my head is by actively doing them, which is why anytime somebody has a question about a plugin in Sublime on the forum or in the Discord or whatever, if I'm helping them, I'm writing a plugin for that. I could be looking for a package and saying, yeah, there's totally, this package will do the thing that you need, but it's not as easy to learn if you just use somebody else's answer, right? There's a few people on the team have the little black book of notes. One person we were doing a screen share of her screen, has a text file that's basically just a big long list of Mongo commands, on the one hand, on the left, and on the right, a one-sentence blurb for what it is they do. Sort of like her own little quick crib cheat sheet. And different people learn different ways. Visual learning for the win. Slower but stronger. Yeah, see, now the instructors in college always used to say, that we would she wouldn't give us handouts. She would put stuff up on the board and force you to write the notes out yourself, which I always abhorred because I really, didn't like those sorts of classes to begin with. But it sort of makes sense from that whole, if you just hear somebody say a thing, you don't commit it to your brain as much as if you physically go through the task of having to filter it through your brain and your hand and your pencil to a piece of paper. I mean, I am pretty terrible at that in general, what with my memory being the way that it is, but nevertheless, that is usually how that goes. I'm gonna say here's hello Ashwin. I have you ever noticed I did a fresh restart of Sublime and the commands browser package throws this error, list index out of range, because this browse 33 resource array has nothing in it. It does now, but it doesn't at plugin load time. It seems to happen every time for me. I've been meaning to post a thing about it, but I wasn't sure if you'd seen something like that. I'm not sure if there's something special and fantastic going on with this. In fact, let's see if we can. Well, I don't need to clear the console. Let's see if we can repeat it again. Because I said it happens every time. Yeah. All right. I wasn't that time. Oh, because the file was probably already there. But cool. I noticed that I think I can't remember if it was last Monday's stream here or if it was one of the other streams, but I noticed it there when I was sort of playing with the package a little bit, and I've been meaning to post an issue and I keep forgetting. But if you're aware of it, then cool. I'm not entirely sure. It doesn't always do it, but it really seems like it's trying to pull resources somehow before the list of resources is finalized, even though it happens inside of plugin loaded. Oof. Ow. Oh, I missed a thing. I always made abstractions from lessons and turned those into notes. Yeah. Oh, when we were learning Angular, there was a few of us that were, told we got to do UI stuff. We're using Angular for this in this project. There's a Tour of Heroes demo on the Angular page. Go do that. Several of the people that did it were just literally followed the tutorial. I knew that that's not going to really cement things for me. So at every opportunity, I was changing up what it was doing, changing display, experimenting, as you say, turning it into my own thing to help cement for me exactly what it was that I was doing there. Even settings seem to return. That's interesting. That happens from plugin loaded too? That definitely doesn't seem like it should happen. I wonder if, no. That is weird. Maybe it's an offshoot of this. I believe I logged an issue for this one, and there's a specific version in which it started happening. I wonder if you should try testing your package in that one to see if you see the same thing there, because maybe there was something that happened with the file catalog handling that's having knock-on effects on other things. All right, we were writing a commit message for this. For clarity when looking at the package, wow. Say while working on it, cleaner look in my, to have the resources laid out in a separate structure. Whoops. Need not be fixed in the package. That's probably good enough for that. So we move the the key maps up into there. I guess I probably could have moved menus because there's a couple of menus in here. But let's not go crazy until there's more of these things. We modified all of those, so those are cool. Not super happy with that, but it is what it is. That's less of a thing to worry about at this particular juncture. So, what were some of the things that I was thinking of in here? Does Python have a... Shoot. Let's bring that tab over to here, like so. This is something that I was pondering. Although I don't remember exactly what. Guess what type of file based on its file URL. Yeah. I think I may have implemented. I'm not sure how well that actually works. Let's see. Import MIME types from URL downloader.url downloader import. Oh, I'm in the wrong thing. Hang on. Switch to that one. Get temp file name. So if we did get temp file name for the one that I ginned up, returns that this is probably going to load the index.html file, including if you do that. But MIME types.guess type of https thatnerd.net. Really frazzled my brain. So it can't figure that on its own. The thought occurred to me after the fact that maybe there was something when you're working with URLs and such. Wait, why is that highlighted? That's awesome. I noticed you were asking questions and Dylan provided some answers as well, which is also cool. It also occurred to me that I never responded to you in writing in that question that you had in the Discord. I actually answered it in a stream the night that we were playing with it, related to choosing something from the item or from one of the lists and holding down control, copying like a run command sort of thing. Can't remember what the exact thing was, which I thought actually in some cases might actually be pretty useful if you wanted to prototype some plugin code. I said it and I meant to cycle back and write it down. I didn't want to take time out of the middle of the stream to do so. And then, of course, it fell out of my head because my head is a sieve at times. What we could theoretically do is, I guess, the way that the code is currently structured, when it comes time to download the thing, it creates a context, it opens the URL, then it creates a temporary file and reads the stream into it. But if the opening this, for running a build is Control B under Windows and Linux and Command B under Mac OS. And in the menu, it's Tools Build. You can always look there to see what the key associated with that is. Ooh, configurable modifier key even. Fancy. Do. Good grief. There's a lot of stuff in here. Headers in the form of. Oh. So let's compare as we dare here. If we did that, clear the console. And we get a content type out of this bad boy. So, what was the other thing that I was testing in the video for something like that? Because we could potentially, this particular URL is just a file named CSS. So doing this doesn't give you any syntax highlighting. But in the list of stuff that it dumped out, did it have a content type? It did. It had a content type of text CSS. So, we could conceivably make this smarter. Since we're partially on the topic of build systems, any chance you know what choice build system and choice variant for build do? Did I cover that in my video? I know there's a bunch of args in there. You don't specify that there, do you? No, you don't. Oh, no, huh? I feel like I do know the answer to that, but at the same time, I don't know the answer to that. We're looking for... Okay, this is what I was thinking that it might be. Because it has an argument for telling it the actual build, right? And the name of a variant. So I'm not entirely sure what those would be for unless they're booleans and you can set them to true to cause it to ask you in a way different than what this is doing. But yeah, offhand, I'm not entirely sure. I'd probably play with it a bit to see what that might actually do. Let's take a digression because I don't want to have to deal with MIME types. Oh yeah, so it totally thinks that they are Booleans, huh? See what happens. No build system. Anything in the console? No. I'll probably literally have this set to nothing here. Yeah, let's set this to automatic. That's what build with would do anyway, right? We need to maybe do that from a Python file. Whoops. So this is prompting me for which one of those I might want. And whoops, choice variant is set to false. So in such a situation, I would almost assume that it wouldn't do that. I wonder. If we told it exactly what build system we wanted and choice variant was set to false, still does that. If Ben's paying attention, he might know what they are or be able to find that information. But yeah, I don't think I've ever used those. I'm not entirely sure where that information was even garnered from, to be perfectly honest. I generally just use those two. I wonder if these are something that used to be there while the whole mechanism was being worked on and now they're not actively used for anything. I could see that happening, theoretically. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure on that one. I'm not sure how to go about testing that either. Hmm. Wait, is that returning a string? What the hell is that actively returning? Ah, that's fun. I'm being hacked. It's saltier than usual. Oh, that's what I clicked on without realizing it. I see. Well, that documentation could use a little something something. Actually, I guess that's my fault for using the 3.3 version of this and not the 3.8 version of this. Probably makes more sense. Now it'll be in a new location, and we're blinded. We're blinded. Huh, well, that's fun. It doesn't necessarily help, though. In order to enable dark mode in Merge, there's an item in the preferences menu that you can switch from light to dark or auto, but this option will only work if you're a licensed user of Merge. So the only way to get dark mode is to purchase a license. And if trying to set that setting doesn't have any effect for you. What was I going to do there? We want the content type. No. Oh, no. We got to go back in this one. We got to go back in this one. This function always returns an object which can work as a... Oh, wait. Am I still looking at the right thing? URL open. Yes. Which can work as a context manager. Oh, I guess we should probably make it a little bit smarter about that, too, huh? Oh. In addition to the 3 new methods above, the message attribute contains... Oh man, that makes life a little bit more difficult there, doesn't it? Oh. Hang tight. Chat channel. Boop. There we go. Thank you. Incidentally, we discovered on the weekend that much in the same way that you pasting a link in the chat just goes nowhere, even though I specifically have it set to allow them, and even me as a moderator and other moderators in the chat don't get to see that it happened and approve it. Only moderators can post one. Comments that arrive on the channel that have URLs in them are summarily deleted without even telling me that they're there. How to open Sublime. Wait, when you say SM Text, do you mean Sublime Text or Sublime Merge? I would read SM as Sublime Merge, in which case the way to do that is the way that I did it here, which is if I wanted to look at my user package, you just run that. The smurge command is something that triggers things. And for Sublime Text, create a new window, open this directory. Subl -n dot creates a new window with my user package stuff plunked inside of it. If you're using macOS, there's extra steps that you have to take to get that to work. Similar on Windows 2, I guess. There's documentation for that. Let's just very quickly before we look at the forum post. Sublime Text command line docs. Search that. That'll find the magic that tells you how to set up those commands. And how it works for Sublime Text and Sublime Merge are the same except for the command that is used. So on Windows, you're going to want to add the location that you installed Sublime into the path. On Mac, you need to run a command, and on other systems, I guess, yeah. In any case, that'll help you. You only need, does it? Well, the thing that, that's right, yeah. I always do that because I'm afraid of it doing that by default, so I like to be very explicit in creating a new window, but that's a good point. So there you go. Listen to Ben. He knows what he's talking about. If you want to get really verbose, but not even I am that crazy. For what it's worth, if you run both of these, you can see what arguments that they actively take. To be honest, I don't know why I think that it would default to just adding the folder to the current window when it's an option. No, that's totally on me, unless it did that a long time ago, but I don't think so. Now, if we look here, nope, sorry, we look here. I totally did a thing. I filed it away for future use, but I still don't know what choice build system and choice variant do. My usage of that is very deep rooted. Since you're here, Ben, do you know what choice build system and choice variant do for the build command? Because Ashwin was asking, and I'm unaware on those ones. I've only ever used the build system and the variant options there, not those. Specifying choice build system and choice variant didn't seem to have an effect that we could see. Minimal testing, mind you. Look, I even bookmarked that so I can find it later. When we add a folder to a project, Sublime creates a file for Sublime project. Should we add, the general rule of thumb for that sort of stuff is that there's going to be a Sublime project file and there'll be a Sublime workspace file. You don't have to include the project file, but you can if you want, but what you don't want to put in source control is the workspace file. I may have some examples of that laying about somewhere. Like here. There's a Sublime project file here and there's a workspace file here. If you're looking to git ignore, I have only added the workspace. The idea behind this is that the workspace file contains information about the current window, what files are open, what tabs are open, what the find history for things is, etc. Basically, there's little to nothing that you can do in any window in Sublime that is a project without it modifying the workspace file. You know, sitting and looking at it is probably one of the few things. So you don't want to put this in source control because it will change every time you do anything and you'll go quietly insane. The project, if you're going to put any of these in, put the project in. That said, if the only thing that the project is doing for you is allowing you to open it up by choosing an item from the list, and you're not doing something like having specific settings in there, like this is not currently a project, right? No, it's not. So again, if we did the brain buddy, oops, edit project. All this is doing is specifying the folder that this is stored in. So if this wasn't in Git and I had to recreate this, that would be incredibly simplistic. On the other hand, if I had something like folder exclude patterns in here to say that I don't want any folders named CSS, then maybe I do want to check this in because it's controlling what we see in the sidebar to a greater degree. Or if you had some settings in here like this and you wanted, you know, if you wanted highlight line number to be false in this, for example, in this project, then you might want to put this in. But by and large, whether you do is entirely up to you. Whoops, that's not the key that does that. Save that and close that one up. Used internally for keeping track of which build system variant is selected. For instance, you want Control B to always run the one you've selected. But if you have another key binding for a specific build system or plugin, you don't want those changing. Which one? That's for like that. The build lets you execute a specific build and a specific variant. Yeah, but the Boolean ones are the ones that were sort of confusing. Like. User Linux. No. Cannot type this eventide. I think the little example that we had was that one right there. This always uses that particular build system. You know, we could also specify syntax check here, and then it would always run that particular build, you know, which is clearly very unhappy because this is not Python. But what those ones do, that's the... because having it set to false here or true here seems to do the same thing. Unless... yeah, like I said... I see. So... right now, I think I see what you're getting at here. So right now the build system is automatic. If these were both set to true, and I did this and it failed, does that mean that this build system gets changed? Because it doesn't seem like it does. That's the part where I'm sort of having a little bit of a disconnect there. As far as I know, there's not a package for Copilot for Sublime yet, although I think some people were working on them. I don't know how far they got. Did I miss a question about project-specific settings? I love project-specific settings because the stuff that we work on at work has a tab size of 2 and it drives me crazy. Not nearly as bad as the stuff that we saw in a stream the other day, the Linux kernel method of using tabs and spaces, and the tabs are 8 characters. Woof. These have only an effect if these aren't here. Like if I said that to true and this to false, and this weren't here, and I executed the build, Well, I guess that would need to have the stuff, wouldn't it? Yeah. Build system Python. If we said that, oh, sorry, I did that backwards. Just automatically chooses. Yeah. It's one of those things that I definitely want to play around with to see. I don't quite grok the business there. But it's been a long day and my brain is not what it once was, shall we say. Let's go back to what we're looking at here. That's a real blast from the past from way back when. Way, way back when. But we were looking at you. What time we got here? I don't have my watch on. I feel all weird. There we go. That seems to. It still considers itself to be happy. Huzzah. Email message from string instance. That could explain why that seems slightly confusing then. I think Ashwin was asking that because he's trying to document all of the core commands and what all of their arguments do. What's a message object structure? This documentation leaves a little bit to be desired. Oh, I think I missed it. Go back. Just want that bit there. Message object structures can be created in one of two ways. That is definitely one of those. But yeah, I had the same thing. See also one of the few things that I've ever seen Keith log a question for on Stack Overflow because he wanted to know the answer. Ways to execute or if there is an argument for the find and replace and find in files. There was only one of them, but he was interested in all of them. That was an argument you could specify to specifically set the different text fields. Because the closest that we could come to opening the find panel and having particular text in at the time was to try to slurp the find string from somewhere. Like creating a temporary hidden panel, putting the text that you want inside of it, selecting it, and then running the slurp command to pull that into the panel. I'm not sure if that's still a thing or not, but we spent a lot. That was a case of going bald, trying to execute the command with all kinds of different arguments to see if we could hit on one that would actively come up with the result that was intended. Huh. Let's try something here. Uh, yeah, I think this was like a ways back, so it might even predate that. I'd have to look at the thing. I can't remember what all the fields were. I think it was the find and replace panel that he wanted to do something with, and it was probably a thing that was in response to somebody else asked a question he wanted to know. Hello, Ayush, how you doing? Boo, boo, boo. Oh, is it as easy as all that? Is it as easy as all that? Uh, let's try that. So let's see. We clear the console and uh, URL download that. And it came up with text.html, which is nice. We do it for this bad boy. And it came up with text.css. So that's cool. to be It can be deceptive, the sort of stuff that has to happen behind the scenes to tie the user interface components together with the plugin hosts and the like. It's one of those situations where things seem easy, but, you know, fundamentally awesome design makes things seem easy when they're perhaps not. I needed the shoot and I just closed it. No, 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 you unhappy boy, you. You. What's this gonna do? Is this gonna blow up hardcore? I bet it is. Oh. Hey. That worked better than I thought it would, considering that was a file URL. Do I have FTP enabled on this machine? No, we won't worry about that for the time being. So, now we need to go back to that. Let's see. We've got a lot of tabs open here. Clobbered, clobbered, clobbered. Nothing prints for that one. So looking for MIME type stuff. So we want you. Guess the extension for a file based on its MIME type given by type. The return value is the string given by file name extension, including the leading dot. Hey, that's fancy. So we want something like that. What's strict do? Oh. Only official types. Well, I think we want to add false to that, don't we? We want to go all crazy. Yeah. We need to... Wow, that was way off. Fire up that bad boy. I'm making a pyramid, Ashwin. What do you think? What do you do when multiple layers of the pyramid have the same length? Do you alphabetize them, as I've done here? Mime types dot guess. Oh, come on, man. There we go. Guess. No, wait, go back one. Guess extension. Yeah. Of as the Hacky Hackersons. Whoop, didn't like that. What did I do? Oh, forgot one. There we go. Sublime plugin at the bottom. I'm sorry, Sublime and Sublime plugin have to be at the top of the page because that's where the template puts them. If the good lords of Sublime Text wanted us to put those at the bottom, they would have put some space. There you go. There's I think there's like an issue for some of the fields have arguments that allows you to populate them and others don't. Someone asked that just recently, didn't they? Now that I think about that, I can't remember where. All right. So, what if there is service with a smile? Could this possibly be any longer? Theory, when it opens the URL, it does it enough that it gets the headers. That would allow us to get the content type. The content type will allow us to look up the extension to put on the file. But what this is coming up with is the name of the temporary file that it wants to generate based on the URL for this thing. And I really think if there actively is a file name, if it has an extension, we should use the extension that the file has, right? And we should only use the MIME type extension if the result of splitting the name of the file into parts doesn't come up with an actual extension. That would be my guess for how I expect this to work. Because if you're trying to download a specific file, I think the name should have that. It should only use the extension. That's a good question. Someone asked that recently. I'm not entirely sure. I just use FireCamp for all of that stuff personally because it throws itself directly into the browser window. But there's that. Send HTTP requests with Sublime rather than tools like Postman. I've never used it, but depending on what you want it to do, it looks like it doesn't necessarily display anything so much as you need to provide it with configuration information. This is the one I think that someone was talking about previously. The last time it was updated was 8 years ago. Interesting. Maybe this package does the thing that we're doing here. In which case, this was not at all any search term. Much like Ashwin, I would recommend, in most things, a dedicated tool is going to do a thing 1,000 times better than something that someone threw into a plugin. But depending on what you want, something like this might work. I'm guessing if you have something, a Thunderbird client in Visual Studio Code probably has some sort of really fancy graphical interface associated with it. I don't think you're going to get something like that out of a package in Sublime. It's possible to a degree, not all the way there, but I tend to err on the side of if you need to do a specific thing, you want the application that does that, which is why there's not a web browser inside of Sublime, because if you want to browse the web, that's what Chrome's for, and Chrome does Chrome better than anything else can do Chrome. The same is true for many things. The place where I waffle on that is Terminus, because I do find it handy from time to time to be able to run simple commands from directly inside of Sublime without having to lose my focus, because if I go looking for something, chances are good I'm going to find it. Yeah, what you can't do with that sort of interface in Sublime is inputs, except for ones like this, which is unlikely to be exciting, depending on what you're looking for, of course. But I've actually sort of been favoring FireCamp over Postman lately, all else being equal. Primarily, that's because it has the browser extension. So if I need to do something quick and ad hoc, I don't need to go hunting around. It's just right there. Still under active development though, and it does some wonky things. If you're familiar with Swagger, one of the things that we covered in the training session today was the Swagger documentation for the service that we're creating. And I was showing the other developers how they could use Postman or FireCamp to make requests. And one of the managers pointed out that you could just use the try it out editor inside of the Swagger if you do the appropriate login stuff to get the right bearer token set up. So I demonstrated how they could do that if they wanted to, but after that manager left the meeting, I pointed out that the reason that I use a dedicated tool for something like that rather than Swagger is because I often have a series of things that I might want to run, or I might want to run the same test multiple times in multiple different environments, and having them set up in a little library and being able to easily execute them seems miles better to me than using the one in Swagger. That seems more suited for quick ad hoc type situations. So here's what we're doing here. We're saying given a URL, get the temporary file stub name and extension. If the URL has no file name portion, we assume it will be index.txt. If the file name in the URL has no extension, then the one from the past in MIME will be used. This allows the returned MIME type from a request to influence the file name without clobbering any explicit extension on the file. This is a situation where it's a long comment. Does it technically really need to be there? No, probably not. But I like to be very explicit in what things are expected to do. Again, due to that whole defensive coding situation. Oh, there we go. Do something like that, and then return name MIMEx. Whoops. Something simple like that is a quick little decompose, recompose type operation. The idea behind that being, we need to clean the other part of that code up too. That if we choose this and did that, uh-oh. Whoops. Yes, I did. That's neat. I don't think I've ever seen it do that before. That new in Python 3.8. I did in fact mean to do that. Or I did in fact not mean to do that, I should say. We asked it to download this file. This name has an extension, so it used that extension. This one is a CSS. The MIME type says it's CSS, but the file name doesn't have CSS upon it. So what happens if we pick it? We now get syntax highlighting for that. So hey, pardon me. That's a pretty neat enhancement that I hadn't thought of previously. Clean this up perhaps a little bit more. For right now, let's say, did it say that URL open returns a context manager? So we could do something like thus. This will be the most traffic my site's gotten in a while. All right. It's probably a nice way to go about something like that. Doop. Doop. And yeah, we'll put you back and close you for the time being. Info is stream.info, and content type is info.getContentType. And then that makes this part be nicer. That's not that great, is it? Let's fix the import a bit. Can we take the current file name in snippets? Yeah, there should be there's a field that does that, yeah. New snippet. This is a snippet expanding, oops, in the file. Something like that. And we'll add a trigger of the test. So inside this file, just like so. If you wanted to also do stuff, you could try to throw the extension off of the file using a regular expression as well. There's also a few other things in there. For example, oh, hey, that did not do what I expected. Thus? I know there is one. I can't remember. I don't use those sorts of things very frequently. But that's interesting that it caused that to pop up. Yeah, I can't remember what it is offhand. I have to look at the community documentation for that. But the variable tm file name will tell you the name of the file that is currently being executed. We want something like thus. Oh, that is harsh, bro. And is there a search in here? Should be, I would have thought. Extensibility snippets, and specifically, oh, full name. Pardon me. Name of the file, the path of the file, your name, the column where the snippet is being inserted, the line the snippet's being inserted, text that's selected, scope, in case you want such a thing, tab size. So yeah, there's examples of that here and how to do that, which I shall do that with. I don't like that particular change. Let's do this instead. From MIME types, import guess extension. Okay. Given a URL, get the temporary file's stub name and extension. URLs with files that have no extension will use the given MIME extension. If the URL has no file name portion, yeah. And we just found a way to make that be 7 paragraphs shorter. That's got to be nice. There we go. That's still doing its thing. So the name of the file is the path that comes out of the URL parse is an empty string or a / depending on what style the URL is. If it's either of those, the file name is index. Otherwise, it's the base name of the path part. In order to figure out exactly the file name, then we split it apart and return the name and the MIME extension if the extension is empty. All good. Thanks for stopping by, Ashwin. We're probably only going to go for about 15 more minutes or so. We cut the stream around about 10, somewhere around there. I have some stuff that I need to do for some more training stuff happening tomorrow. Hey, there's a new version of Mattermost. That's exciting. I wonder if it's going to work better. Rename a variable in one go. There's not a refactor mechanism in the same way that you might expect there to be from Visual Studio Code. Oh, that's not true. If you use LSP, the LSP package, it provides something like that. I'm pretty sure we played with that in a previous stream. If I wanted this name variable to be something different, like Bob, I'd just do this. And then I'd be done. So depending on what it is that you want to do, if it's something that's across multiple places, say the name of a method or a variable or a member variable in a class, then yeah, for something like that, you're gonna either have to do it manually, do something like a find in files to find things and replace them, or use the LSP package should have a refactoring mechanism in it that would do something like that. But offhand, I'm not sure how to pull that off in LSP because it's been a while since I've played with it. I think we maybe want to tighten this part up a bit too, all else being equal. No problem, Abhishek. Thanks very much for stopping by. Questions are always welcome here and on Twitch streams. There should be they should be linked down in the description below because I stream on Twitch on Wednesdays and Fridays doing other development work. But I still answer any questions that anybody has about Sublime Text or most anything realistically. That has a very poor name. Oops. The only place self is used is for, oh, yeah, we'll fix that. Change this to window. We'll change self.window to window. And we need to implement show error here as well. Which is just that. We'll just inline that in here. I even need the self on this bad boy, right? Nope. And these go away. Oop. Hello, Dev. How you doing? Welcome to the stream. How is your day going so far? Well, I hope. I've spent a lot of the day doing training for a bunch of stuff. And it was less than fun, shall we say. Type is a built-in thing, isn't it? Yeah. It's going pretty good. I had to give a training session earlier today, which lasted about 3 hours, included some high-level managers, and various things went wrong because that always happens when managers are in meetings. Sort of fried my brain a bit. I did not bring nearly enough water for that much talking, so I was kind of unhappy about that. And I still need to write some more stuff, which is why the stream will be ending sometime soon. I'm pretty sure I have a meeting fairly early tomorrow, and I need to produce some extra documentation for some people. But that said, still got the health. The day went well besides that, and now we're here hanging out on the YouTubes. We had a bit of a hiccup earlier where it decided it did not want our stream data for reasons I do not understand, but then everything evened itself out and life was good, so that's nice. We don't need that. We just need to, well, I mean, I guess. I kind of like the idea of using commonly used stuff though. Uh, we provide a potential extension in case the file doesn't have one. We want it to be very clear that what we're doing here is a guess at the extension and not necessarily anything super interesting. Yeesh. This doesn't return a context manager, I'm imagining. Oh, harsh. Uh, if you're a Minecraft player, you might know that historically Minecraft has used Mojang accounts because Mojang is the name of the company that makes Minecraft. And recently, because of some stuff they're doing, they've migrated everyone's Mojang account to be associated with a Microsoft account instead. Otherwise, when you do it, everything's logged in the same. Well, I have two Minecraft accounts because I'm weird like that. One for standing and idling in an area to keep farms running while I'm doing other stuff, or for recording little video segments and the like. And when I was migrating the accounts, I didn't pay enough attention to the fact that the browser insisted that I was using a certain Minecraft or Microsoft account that I wasn't. I logged in with one and it decided that I probably meant the one that's my primary. So I ended up associating the two Minecraft usernames with the wrong Microsoft accounts. And in order to flip those back the other way so that they would be associated the way that I want them to be, because I have like a main account and a secondary account, I had to rename both accounts to be slightly different and then set up a timer for a month plus 7 days. A month. To be able to switch them back, because you can only change your name once every 30 days, but it takes 37 days for it to expire the thing. So I had calendar appointments set up to fix stuff. Why Microsoft? Because Microsoft bought Mojang for $70 quadrillion way back in the day, and everyone was pretty concerned that that meant that Minecraft was going to go away. But it turned out that that's not in fact the case. It is not a context manager. Okay. As I understand the deal, I I commiserate with Notch, the guy that made Minecraft, who sold it, because the full douchery of the internet was brought fully to bear on him because he came up with something that was ridiculously popular and spread like wildfire, and it was causing him serious mental distress and harm to be associated with it anymore. So, when given the opportunity to get the hell out of there for some amount of money, he was happy to oblige. And, unfortunately, he didn't do stuff to stay out of the public spotlight after the fact to some degree. He has said some stuff that caused Microsoft to officially point out, we he doesn't speak for us, kind of stuff, which was kind of rough. Um, I don't think that's going to get any better. Yeah. Okay. I think that'll be enough for this. We need to change some of this stuff around slightly. We'll say given a URL, in fact, we probably don't even need to do that, but we will. download it to a temporary file, and then open that file in a tab in the provided window. The temporary file will have a name as close as possible to the real file name, to the file name in the URL, with a temporary suffix on the name to avoid collisions. Yeah, that is true. See also any involvement they might have in code in Copilot. We should just be able to do that, right? Yeah. So down here in this URL opener, this lambda can be open URL self.window URL. And this part goes away, and that goes away. And this whole command becomes a lot nicer to look at. Does it still work? No, because I broke something. Maybe an equal sign in my assignment would make things happier. Okay, so double checking things still seem to work. URL. File still downloads. CSS file without an extension still has the appropriate stuff in it, which is nice. So we have managed to make it a little bit better and not break stuff, which is all to the good. Let's go ahead and whoops. Oh, that's my user package. No wonder. Hee, that's ridiculous. Let's stage that. Let's see. MIME type. New function that does stuff that was redacted from there. Well, I mean, they provided the world Windows. Don't you count that as a good thing that they've done? Or do you prefer Mac OS or Linux? Recall? Oh, that's what you meant by that. I gotcha. Yeah, well, I mean, that's a recent thing. But think of what they did for the computing industry as a whole, coming up with Windows 3.1 back in the day, Windows 3 and Windows 95 and Windows 98. Until there was other competition to nudge them out, they, ushered in some stuff. Well, I mean, they stole that from Apple, but is Apple any better? They got mad at a particular phone company for having rounded edges. Like they were the ones that invented the idea of a rectangle with curvy corners on it. There's a lot of animosity to go around regardless of who's involved in the thing, all else being equal. Previously, the extension of the file, which would have a direct impact on syntax highlighting. The file is opened. Always came from the file being downloaded. This changes that so that in cases where the file name has no extension, the MIME type is used to set the appropriate extension. We could, in theory, also use the content type to force the syntax, but I don't really like to do that sort of thing. And there's a couple of more things to get rid of here. Let's say we don't want that, and we need to change the names of some stuff here, because this should really be named find URL. The thing that I found when I was doing iOS development, there were a couple of different versions of iOS that came out in that time, and it really seemed like the thing that Apple was focusing on the most way back then, which was like circa iOS 5 and 6, to give some context to how long it's been since I've been in that particular part of the development pool, was they decided that all of the buttons should stop being blue and should start being a different grayer color instead, which is nice. You want to come up with a new version of something, you want it to look visually distinct, but whatever else was happening, the thing that was apparently obvious right from the get-go was, well, it looks different. Does it look different just for the sake of looking different? Did anything actually get fixed behind the scenes? You have to go look stuff up in order to find out. Do something like that, and something like that. Oh wait, I did not fix that. I thought I deleted those. Shoot. It would totally have an error if there was something that we weren't supposed to do, like yeah. We'll have to fix that one up and patch that commit. There we go. Nice. So let's very quickly just tweak that part up. That is these. I thought I might have accidentally undone it. Stage that hunk, amend previous commit. There we go. Oh, and we are more or less at time. Let's do this and say clearer and gets rid of a print statement that was not really meant to be left in place. Okay, one last thing. The person that asked this wanted the potential option to open this in a new window. That's very easy to do. We can make it a setting. Or maybe we'll, I mean, it's easy enough to pull off just as a quick, what we could do. Yeah, go away. I'm looking at this file now. The part of this that creates the file and opens it. Too many cooks spoil the broth. I suppose. Is the Windows driver certification thing still something that actively happens? I'm just realizing that, with the exception of my video card, I can't remember when the last time was that I plugged anything in that required a driver that wasn't just something that was generic enough that it would just work. I really don't have enough toys. I think that's what that's telling me. I guess my tablet, my drawing tablet, I think I have a specific driver for that. But apart from that, no. Exactly that, Dev. As I like to say in all my streams, tool shaming is not a thing that I like to engage in, and that includes operating systems. There are some people that swear by Windows, some that swear by Linux, some that swear by Mac OS. This sort of came up in the Sublime Text Discord recently, but in the whole of human history, the idea that you have an opinion that's better than someone else's opinion and explaining that to them and getting them to change their opinion, on the whole, doesn't have a great track record. So why put up with that level of awfulness when we could just say that there's enough stuff for everybody to go around? If you prefer Windows, you can use Windows. If you prefer Linux, you can use Linux. If you prefer Mac OS, you could use Mac OS. There's no reason why everybody has to use the exact same thing. Variety is the spice of life, right? And the same goes for editing tools as well. There's sometimes people in streams try to wind me up for using Sublime Text and not VS Code, and it's just down to personal preference. You used to build drivers, you brave man. Oh, I think if we wanted to, we could cause URLs to open in a new window. We could say run command new window. Whoa, what was that? Wow. I have a very long thing in that one. Pretty sure that'll do what we want. Yeah. These two lines of code are all that are needed to be able to open URLs in a whole new window instead of in a tab. So we have the world at our fingertips for being able to do something like that, which is something that the original requester asked. We could do that by prompting for an extra argument, or we could use input handler events, but well, no, this is true. That part was related more to the other stuff that Dev was saying. The the whole debate is endless. It's up to one's taste and opinion whether they like what they like suits them and the like. Driver regressions are indeed, that's a whole other kettle of fish. But that is indeed redonkulous. I will agree. I'm lucky in that apparently I don't have enough cool toys. Everything just ends up being a generic USB something or other. And I'd never have to install any particular driver. And I'm not really doing anything super exciting with anything either. Well, that's pathetic. Even the cool mic that I use for streaming is just a standard thing. C or C++? Yeah, did you ever do any assembly work, G-Bound? I think we're gonna call the stream there. We got a bunch of stuff done here. I'm gonna push those commits up. So if you followed the video where we were playing with that package this week, it'll update for you next time you start Sublime, most likely, and you could get the benefit of those things as well. With that, I must go and put away some dishes and then come back and respond to a few work emails and start writing up a little bit more training stuff for a session tomorrow. Life is going to be good. But thanks to everybody who stopped by. Loved all the questions. Loved all the chat as well. We had some good discussions going. Potentially we get some new functionality in Sublime Text as a result. That's always cool. And you can catch me in the next stream. Update your username to Genius. You want to work for Apple, do you? They tell you we have MacBooks and my coworkers stopped charging, so we made an appointment at the Genius Bar, and then we got there and we had to wait in line anyway, even though we had an appointment, because just like that episode of Seinfeld, they know how to take the reservation. They don't know how to hold the reservation. T-shirt. Oh, I get you. Yeah, it's sort of a tricky shirt to wear on a live stream. I will say that. We're gonna jump on out of here. If this was Twitch, we would raid. Unfortunately, we can't do that. So we will see you next week. Again, if you like these things, always come back. You can always ask questions. You can always hang out and just chat, as we have been doing here, about a variety of different things. If you'd like some more streaming action, then do feel free to join us on Twitch on Wednesdays and Fridays as well. There should be links down in the underneath areas for something like that. They did indeed say that. Yes, you have to replace the whole motherboard, which was $600, as I recall. And he said, sure, because he was going to take the receipt and ship it to the company and get them to pay. The part of that I didn't like was how they took it into the back and came back after a while and then said, yeah, there's the thing. We took it apart. Let us assure you it's broken. We put it all back together again. If you'd like us to fix it, give us some money. And you never get to see any of that stuff. I mean, I think I'm used to the sorts of computer stores where people just crack stuff open on the bench right in front of you and look at it. So they're not big companies like Apple with all of those products. Did sort of not sit right. All right. Well, I could stay and chat with you guys all evening, but I have got to write some stuff, and it's making me very sad. Soonest begun, soonest done, as someone used to say. I'm not entirely sure who. But in any case, thanks to everybody for joining. We'll see you in the next stream. And until then, please have a sublime week. I didn't know who Louis Rossmann. This was circa iOS 5 and 6. That's how long ago that happened. All right. ODAT out. Have a great night, everyone.